We continue with our series kind of looking back at all the We Believe games. And, you know, every conversation we've had is at a different angle for a team that was so close-knit. And I think one of the most underrated, unsung heroes of We Believe is a guy, even though he's Sacktown's finest, I'm still claiming him for the Bay Area, and that is our own Matt Barnes. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm good. How you guys been? How's the family?
Family is good. Everybody's kind of hanging in the same situation. Where are you? What have you been doing? And how have you kind of dealt with the real world getting in the way of the sports world?
I'm in LA, which is home. And I've actually, to be honest with you, I've enjoyed being able to sit down and stay stationary for a little bit. You know, post-career, I've been fortunate enough to, you know, have some successful businesses, work with ESPN, host other shows. So I'm constantly on the move and missing just a lot of quality time with my kids. So, you know, unfortunately, through these circumstances, I've been able to kind of just sit back at home and hang out with the twins, hang out with my other son, Ashton, and just try to be super dad. So the worst part about it, like you said, is there's no sports. So I think stuff like this, what we're doing on all the smoke, are kind of keeping people somewhat content, but we definitely do miss sports.
So give people an idea that the podcast that you and Jack do, where did that come about? What was the thought process there? Because it's had very great kind of not only success and penetration, but it brings the side out of guys that you don't normally see because they're so comfortable with you and Jack. Give us a look at the background there.
It was random. I was actually at my house. We were both at my house in Berkeley maybe 4 or 5 months ago, hanging out, both having success. You know, we were both working for Fox and ESPN, and we were getting a lot of positive feedback, and people were telling us, you know, you guys need to do something together. You guys need to do something together. We both agreed, but didn't really know what that would be. I was fortunate enough to speak on DeMarcus Cousins' documentary that Showtime did, and one of the producers came, told me, he's like, hey, I heard you're trying to start a podcast. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't really know what a podcast is, but I want to do something with me and Jack. He's like, you need to talk to Showtime. I'm like, Showtime does podcasts? He's like, well, they're about to start a new basketball division, and I think you guys would be perfect. And they took a chance on us, and we struck gold. You know, I don't think anyone knew what we had at the time. We just knew, you know, people just knew who me and Jack were, obviously, and didn't know what would come of it. But I think our chemistry is what's key to the show. And to address another point, obviously, I think our realness and who we are allow our guests to kind of take the wall down, and we get in deep, you know, conversations where we're able to peel back layers with our guests. And to me, that's what I always wanted to show. I think there was such a misconception of who I was as a player, as a man. And I think this platform allows us to humanize our guests and allow our guests to tell their side of the story, which is not always the case.
Well, I think you guys have done a great job with it. And you're also, because of all your friendships and relationships, the guest list is pretty incredible. So, you know, I would imagine it's going to kind of take off because it's really kind of the place to be if you love the NBA, and just to see, as you said, I like that phrase, take down the wall and get a better look inside, guys. Yeah. Where does the We Believe season fit for you? Because we're going to go through your basketball journey a little bit. But, you know, to me, you were such a key part of that, in that people know about Steven Jackson and Baron Davis, Jason Richardson, Monte Ellis, but you signed with the team in training camp. You had hit 10 threes, I think, in your career, and then that year you hit 106. You were a trendsetter in that Don Nelson could use you as a Swiss Army knife. You know, give me your kind of thoughts on that season, and then we'll kind of go through the year a little bit.
That season is really what made me as an NBA player. I was on the verge of trying to jump into the NFL. My brother was in college football at the time, and I was still working out basketball and football during the summertime because basketball hadn't really seemed to hit. I'd played 4 years up to that point, had bounced around, been on a handful of teams, and just really wasn't getting a fair shot. I was in Sacramento at the time. Baron Davis had called me that previous summer to that season, like, hey, we're going to have an open run up at the facility. If you're not doing nothing, come down. And I wasn't doing nothing, hopped in my car, drove down an hour and a half, played well, not knowing that Nelly was watching the whole time upstairs through the offices.
Right.
He finished playing. He comes down, tells me I played well. Where am I going to camp? And I was just like, you know, Coach, I don't really have any plans. And he told me, he's like, I can't promise you anything. I think we have 16 guarantees and 19 people coming to training camp. But if you play like you did today, I'll give you a chance. And that was the first time a coach ever told me, like really had a conversation with me and told me I'll give you a chance. And that's all I needed. And training camp, made the team, and continued to use the games as practices and eventually worked my way into the lineup. And then I like to say, I mean, along with that season, but also with my career, the rest is history. You know, that's kind of when I put my name on the map. And, you know, I was a fixture in the NBA after that season.
The year, you know, the team was kind of floating along, and then you have this big trade with Indiana. And give me your thoughts on that in terms of it's rare to see so many bodies get moved around. Chris Mullin had already said, okay, we needed a different fit and a different kind of team that Nelly would embrace. And so it's Jack and Al Harrington and you and Jay Rich and Monte Barron. But, you know, when a team has that much turnover, it's a shock to the system. What was your reaction when you heard about the trade and then as things kind of settled a little bit?
I think you're right. You know, normally it takes time and it's a complete culture shock when you're moving that many bodies from team to team. But luckily, Jack and Barron were really close already, along with Al. So, you know, Barron was the leader of our team. And as soon as we saw how welcoming Barron was to those guys, obviously we had known Jack and Al through playing, competing against each other, but never really knew him. You know, so when Barron opened up with open arms, and then we got a chance to know both of those guys, they were just like us. You know what I mean? So we knew that we had something special. We knew we added some more dogs to a team that had dogs. We just really hadn't had a direction yet, and it was magical. People don't realize that. You know, I want to say that when did that trade happen? February, right before the trade deadline.
Yeah, and right around the first of the year. Yeah.
What we did was in 3.5, 4 month span. You know, we made NBA history that fast. So I think that obviously has contributed to our closeness and our friendship, our brotherhood with guys that I still talk to this day all the time, you know. So we were friends on and off the court. We built a tremendous bond. And through that, we made NBA history.
So that, you know, the one that all the guys talk about is the Detroit game, because people forget until then Jack had been hurt and then Barron had been hurt and Jay Rich had been out. You played 76 games. So you were an Iron Man. Beatrice played all 82 that year. But the Detroit game, finally, everybody was healthy. And the Pistons were really good. I mean, this is, you know, Ben Wallace and Rasheed and Rip Hamilton and Chauncey Billups and Tayshaun Prince. You win in Detroit and kind of crush them. Monte told me, hey, I looked at the standings on the flight home, like how many games we got left. And did you have the sense that, okay, here's the 16-5 run coming, like we're all together now, people better be careful, this team could be special?
Obviously, we didn't know what we had. That game opened a lot of eyes, including our eyes. You know what I mean? Like I said, we got the trade. Guys were in and out. You know, Barron was dealing with injuries the whole season. Jay Rich was hurt. But it was, you saw glances that night. And to beat a team as good as Detroit on their home court the way we did, it just kind of made us all start thinking. And that plane flight home was just a different energy and a different vibe. And we kind of realized, hey, man, we could put something together and make a run. It's going to be a long shot, you know what I mean? But we can do it. You know, for us to go 16-5, and then I want to say we won our last 9 out of 10 games in the clinching game in Portland, the final night of the season to make the playoffs. It gives me chills right now just talking about it.
You know what was weird about that 16-5 run is that it included 2 wins over Dallas in the regular season. And people remember the April one where Dallas sat everybody. But there was a game in March that the Warriors won by 17. And that was, you know, Dallas had won 67 games. They were going to be the 1 seed. So if the Warriors got in, they would play Dallas. But that game in particular, it was like, wait a minute. Jack guards Dirk pretty well. Matt Barnes is kind of a weird matchup for them. They got to deal with Barron and Jay Rich, and their guards can't quite handle that. Did you get a sense that, hey, if we see Dallas, we're not afraid of this team? In fact, that we kind of fit against them pretty well.
That was the one thing I think about that team was we feared nobody. You know what I mean? Obviously, we knew who we were and where we stood, but we also knew the collective talent and the heart we had in that locker room. And I think one team that Nelly really took pride in, obviously, in beating was Mark Cuban's Mavericks, you know, because they had a tough separation. So we knew that as good as they were, as talented as Dirk was, he obviously won MVP that season. We just knew we had more dogs, and we knew that we can beat up on their superstar, which we did once we made that switch, that having Jack guard Dirk, having me guard Dirk, and then really Nelly knowing Dirk's game in and out. You know, Nelly is the one that, you know, got Dirk to Dallas, and he had he told us all his moves, and as soon as he puts the ball down and wants to spin, we're sending. So we had the blueprint on how that team was built and run, and it ran through Dirk. So we knew that if we were able to attack Dirk on both ends and really try to bully him, that we would have some success. So we knew that, Dallas was a great team, the best record in the league, but we definitely didn't fear him. We had a confidence, almost a cockiness about us, knowing that we can beat Dallas, and we did.
Now, as long as your career was in the varied stops, and we're going to get to the championship, which is the perfect ending, but the night in Portland to make the playoffs. Now, you're born in Santa Clara, Sacramento. You know the Bay as well as anybody. That team was the one playoff team over 18 years, 12 years, we believe, and then 5 more non-playoff years. So the thirst for making the playoffs and the, how the fans just embrace that team and love that team. That locker room in Portland, I've been in championship locker rooms. You've been in championship locker rooms. But that night in Portland, making the playoffs, man, it felt like something different. And even the flight home felt different.
It was special, man. First of all, that team was special. But we had always talked amongst ourselves, and me being a native of Northern California, I always knew how special the Bay Area fans were. Football, baseball, basketball, whether the team's good, bad, and different, the fan support never wavered. It was, to me, they're the best fans in the world. And we really took pride once we started making this run, like, let's do this for the city. Let's put it on for the city. Let's do this for the city. And people really gravitated towards us because they felt we were real, we were accessible. So we were a part of that community, we didn't just play for the team, but we felt like we were a part of that community. So we knew how excited not only we would be in the organization, but how much the fans deserve that. And we really took pride on putting on for the city. That whole team did. Also, too, incredibly personal for you and your mom, and that her journey, even the following year and the whole team attending her services and everything. I don't know that anyone loved the Warriors more than her. Where did that fit in? Because I know she had great joy in you being with the Warriors. Right, she loved it. I mean, she had been through my struggles, and she was the constant reminder. There was times where I doubted myself. Am I good enough? Am I going to play? And she was always the one that, baby, if you believe in yourself, if you work hard, you're going to get your chance. And for me to finally get a chance, an hour from where I was born, and her and my dad able to attend every single game that we played at home, it was special. She was kind of the team mom. She bonded with the rest of the moms. She was down in the club underneath after the game, taking shots with people. I mean, she was kind of always the life of the party. And, oddly enough, when Ray hit me up last week about talking about this, I had never watched Game 6 when we had beat Dallas. So I'm watching that game, and when we're making a run at the end, and Jack hits his 6-3 when I gave him that bounce pass behind my back, Dallas takes a timeout, and the camera just happens to pan, and you see my mom jumping up, cheering for us, and it made me smile because although she died the next year, she got to see her baby succeed and have fun and do what I loved before she was gone. So she was a big part of that team. Obviously, we'll probably we'll talk about that when we get there. But for that particular season, it was just amazing because she knew how hard I worked and how bad I wanted it. And for her to be able to see that before she died was really special to me. Well, that year, there's a couple Matt Barnes moments for me, is that you hit 7 threes in a game. I'm thinking this guy had only made 10 threes in his whole career, and he made 7 in one game. And you also hit a 3 in Game 4 that, I mean, to me is still one of the loudest moments I've ever heard at Oracle. And it typified who you are, that you weren't afraid of the moment. You embraced it. You took the big shot, and Nelly's confidence in you to want you to take that shot, and you made it. I mean, that year, Matt, like you said, it put you on the NBA map, but there's got to be some particular moments that give you a big smile when you just think back on it. I just think really I give a lot of praise to Nelly because he took a chance on me and really took a chance on that whole team. We were a team of misfits. Although we had a lot of talent, no one had really had outside of Barron. Barron was, our star, but no one had really a consistent path. And even with Barron being a star, he hadn't really had a consistent path. We were all, kind of somewhat throwaways. And to end up on that same team, first of all, hats off to Mully and the organization for making that happen and bringing us together. But I really credit Don Nelson a lot from the story I told you at the beginning. For me driving down an hour and a half from Sacramento, playing well in an open gym, and him coming down and embracing me, putting his arm around me like, hey, kid, if you play the way you played, I'm going to give you a chance. And that's what happens so often in this league. I think people don't understand how talented you have to be to even sit on the bench on an NBA team.
Right.
This guy is better than any guy that you know, plain and simple. So a lot of guys just don't get a chance. And I think that's what had happened to me my first 4 years was I could play, I just hadn't got a chance. So for Nelly to embrace me and know that I had the confidence of my coach and know that I had the confidence of my team. So for him to instill that confidence and trust in me, and I think he did that for everybody because everyone played so freely on that team. That's what I owe a lot to. So, I mean, obviously there's individual games that, I played really well in, but I think overall just that being a part of that situation and Nelly embracing me and treating me like a man is what I owe all that success to.
All right, so I've had the different guys give their different roles on the team, so I want to have yours in that Barron was the mayor, Steven Jackson was the big brother, Monte was the little brother, Jay Rich was the voice of reason. Now, someone said Matt Barnes was the Hollywood guy, that he always looked good and carried himself a certain way. Where would you put your role in the mix on that team? And, Al was the businessman. That was the other one that guys have tagged him with. Where was Matt Barnes fitting in there?
I think, like you said, I was a Swiss Army knife. I was a little bit of everything. I was a little bit of Barron. I was a little bit of Jack. I was a little bit of Monte. I was a little bit of Al. I was a little bit of Jay Rich. And I think I was the one that was able to keep the atmosphere light. And I think we all just balanced each other out really well because we had a voice of reason. We had a lot of crazy. We had some sense. We had a lot of athleticism. We had a lot of – I think that the main thing with that team is we had a lot of dog, and dogs hang together. Our on-the-court success was predicated upon how close of friends we had grown off the court.
Well, the game one in Dallas, to me, I'd been with Nelly the night before. He's always looking at different people to talk to, and he's like, if we get Dallas to go small, we'll win game one, and we'll win this series in 6 games. Over. And, Matt, I'm telling you, I'm like, Nelson's a basketball genius, but he laid it out, and sure enough, Avery Johnson goes small. You guys win game one, and I'm thinking, Dallas may not know what they have in store for them. Give me the player's perspective on game one and stealing that game and making Dallas play your style.
It was psychological warfare. Like I said, Nelly took pride in dismantling Dallas. You know what I mean? He had some success there. He helped build that team to what it was, and things didn't end well. So I think there was always a chip on his shoulder with, okay, even though I got some misfits, we can beat Dallas. So the fact that a team wins 67 games, the most in the NBA that season, you have the league MVP, but you're adjusting your lineup to an 8th seed team that lucked up and got in the playoffs. So the first part of the mental war was won right there. The second that Avery Johnson went small to match us, we knew we had it because we knew that we could bully Dirk. And this is no disrespect to Dirk. Obviously, he's one of the greatest players we've ever seen. But I think he learned a lot from that series from us because, Dirk was always a mismatch nightmare. He was going to go by you. If you were small, he was going to back you down. But he had never had 6'7", 6'8", strong, athletic guys up underneath him, making him feel uncomfortable the whole time. So although I think in Game 5 he broke out and had 30, outside of that, we really kept him under wraps. You know what I mean? So I think to hit on your point, we knew that we were going to – the players, we felt like we were going to win regardless. But Nelly was telling – we heard Nelly talk, and we understood that our small ball was going to be a problem. There was a lot of talk of small ball. They're going to be too small. They're going to be this. But we were very confident in our small ball because we were good at it. And we knew the second that Avery Johnson went small, he was doubting what got them there. And anytime you have doubt in what gets you 67 wins, it's a problem.
You get to Oracle for game 3. And like you said, as a NorCal guy, you can appreciate this. But that building in game 3, for not having a playoffs for 12 years, the warm-ups sounded like the fourth quarter of other games in other buildings. Give me that thought when you went out of the locker room and the tunnel out onto the floor for game 3 for that first home playoff game.
It started earlier than that because obviously you guys know that we always get there early. You guys get there early too, but to see how many people were outside, I was like, what the hell? Like it's
yeah, right.
4 hours before the game starts. What is everyone doing here? But we knew how bad, like I said, in our minds, we always knew we wanted to do it for the fans. So for us, from the time we pulled into the arena, the parking lot, we felt the energy. People were banging on our cars when we were coming in. We were just like, okay, they're ready. So we got to be ready. So, fast forward to when we start going out there early, maybe 2 hours before the game to get our shots up. the energy is still electric. I was just so surprised. So we just felt that energy. And then when we finally came out there for the actual warm-up before the tip, it was just electric. You know what I mean? Like I said, another situation where I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. Like, they wanted it so bad, and we wanted it bad for them. So for us to be able to give them a home playoff game against the best team in the league, knowing that we probably could have came back 2-0 from Dallas, it didn't happen. But we knew that with our home crowd, we were definitely going to get game 3.
So you roll them in game 3, and then game 4, like I said, there's a Beadrich dunk, but your right wing 3 near the end, it's the best game of the series, to be honest, in terms of competitiveness. And I'm thinking this is what made this team so great, is that it wasn't Barron hitting that shot, or Jack, or Jason, or Monte, or Al. It was Matt Barnes that hits that 3 that puts the Warriors up 3-1, and everybody knew that could be the series right there. When you think of that and then couple it with game 6 where Barron's not feeling good, but Jack gets 33 and hits 7 threes. Like, these are memories that the closeness that you guys have friendship-wise is amazing, but these are all things where everyone has a piece of that whole success. I think that's why they all come together and kind of love it so much.
I think what made us dangerous is you hit it on the head. We had a handful of fearless guys. You know what I mean? We had guys, although Barron was, like I said, everyone knew their role. But there was confidence amongst our team, and there was confidence in Nelly too. If you have an open shot, if you shoot it.
So, Matt, the one thing I'm asking everybody is, where were you on the Barron Kirilenko dunk in terms of everyone's perspective has been so different and so cool? Give me Matt Barnes' worldview of Baron Davis when he spikes it on Kirilenko.
High post, hand off to Baron, left side, right by Williams, into traffic, dunked it over Kirilenko, and a foul! And it was savage.
He was the reason why they won that series, and it wasn't someone, he put up solid numbers, but his ability to guard our stars. You know, he was able to guard Baron somewhat, was able to guard Jack. He was blocking shots. He was everywhere. So for Baron to take off and go baseline and get him back, one of the best dunks, obviously I've seen, but just like the energy in the arena, it was a special moment, man. And
is it something, was that as loud as you heard that, do you think? I mean, there were so many volume peaks during that whole year and that playoff run, but when he finally spikes it on him, I thought the building tilted. Like, we're in earthquake country, so I'm like, did something just happen to the foundation of this building? Like, that noise had a physical quality that kind of attacked you after that.
It was insane. Just the energy the whole entire time, like you said, during the playoffs was something I've never experienced. And that dunk, I probably, it took the decibels as high as they could be. But what was funny about that was I remember that Coach Kerr was doing TV at the time. I think it was TNT he was working for. So it was cool to kind of sit and talk to him after that, but hear him say, like, even with the championship stuff, when we had some time to talk, during the championship run, he's just like, that the energy during that We Believe time during that playoff run, I've still never heard anything like that in my life. You know what I mean? So for him to play with Jordan and Pippen and win rings and Timmy and win rings and to coach the dynasty he's coaching in Golden State, but for him as a commentator to remember that energy and the electricity and Oracle at a time, saying that he's never heard anything that's matched that, let you know how loud and amazing our fans were.
Perfectly done, Matt. I appreciate it. One thing you got to ask Draymond when he's on your show, give me the hypothetical of Draymond Green matched up against Steven Jackson. What would that have been like in like a playoff series for 38 minutes a night? Jack and Draymond back and forth on both ends of the court.
It would have been about a lot of talking. But when I tell people, it's funny you said that. When I tell people, try to explain what the We Believe team was, we were a whole team with the heart and hunger and energy of Draymond.
Yeah.
We all had some of that Draymond in us. You know what I mean? So to me, he is so important. People always want to look at numbers, but me being a basketball head and knowing how important he is to that organization and with the little things he did, we had a whole team of guys with that same mindset, and I think that's what made the We Believe team so special. But I'll definitely ask him that question.
Hey, man, continued success with all the stuff you're doing. Can't wait to run into you at Chase or wherever we are in the NBA world, but proud of you. Loved your role there, and I did love you coming back for the championship. I thought it made it perfect. So take care of those kids and stay safe yourself, man.
Thank you, man. God bless, and you take care of you and your family.
All right, Matt. Be good.
Have a good one.